Hey there, comic book friends. I'm Travis, and this is another edition of What the Fugue, where I talk about what's going on with me and my comic book world for the week. And this is a warning if you don't want to listen to a small rant rage of probably fanboy epic proportions, where I may say lots of stupid stuff that later on I'll probably wish I hadn't put in a video. You might want to pass on to where I give a more friendly face than the face I have right now. Because I'm about ready to scream and throw a huge fit. Okay, here we go. Ah! So, they chose to cancel Hellblazer. Issue 300 in 2 months will be the final episode, or issue of the book. And they are going to relaunch the book as John Constantine in the standard DC universe. This pisses me off big time. I've tolerated the John Constantine of the standard DC universe because I've always known that the real John Constantine was in Hellblazer. Just infuriates me that they've done this. Have no intentions of picking up that other comic. It's being written by a new writer, and it's being written by and drawn by new creators. I think it's a disaster. The team that was on it right now is an excellent team. It is an excellent book. I'm pissed. I'm pissed. You know, they pretty much gutted Vertigo. Vertigo's completely, there's not anything in Vertigo worthwhile anymore. It angers me. You know, we get this other version of Constantine, this PG-13 version of Constantine, this neutered version of Constantine. Now, do I need tits? Do I need lots of sex? Do I need drugs? Do I need lots of cussing and swearing and stuff like that in my comic for it to be a good comic? No, I don't. But I like all those possibilities being there. I like the anything goes kind of attitude that tends to be in Vertigo comics. Now, somebody who knows the history is going to go, well, it's never been an anything goes kind of a title. I mean, there was a time when Warren Ellis wrote a book and they wouldn't publish the story, and so he quit writing for DC Comics. That's why he quit writing for DC Comics. True. They have now published those stories. So it's not like they don't publish them. There was a level of sensitivity they thought they needed at the time. And they've grown, and so that kind of thing wouldn't happen again, I don't believe. This is such bullshit. It just pisses me off. These characters, he's such a rich character. London is part of who he is. Persephone now, his wife, is part of who he is. You take that away and you have this younger prick of a character that is in the regular DC universe. There's nothing enjoyable about him. He doesn't, I mean, he's not smarmy in a cool way. He's just smarmy. It's very, very disappointing. Like I said, the only reason I tolerate him in the DC universe is because I know the real him was in this other place. Because this version of him is a weak, weak version. Now I really want them to write him out of the other titles. So he's just in his own singular title, the John Constantine title, and I can ignore the thing like it never existed. I think it's pretty sad. There was no reason that both titles couldn't go on. Or that you couldn't turn a younger audience that's reading the Justice League Dark books, potentially, into fans of all those trades and all that, and all the potential stories that are there in a much darker and open universe than what they're ever going to portray in their standard comic books. Just aggravates me. I've been steaming all day. Matter of fact, so pissed off that as I was shaving today, I freaking cut my mustache off on accident. Just angers me. Just absolutely infuriates me. I'm sure I have more to say about it, but I've kind of all worked most of it out in my head before I even got to the camera, because I knew I'd make a real jackass of myself if there would have been a camera around immediately when I heard about it. I mean, yes, this is like all the other DC 52 relaunch kind of horseshit, which I don't mind to some degree. But because most of those characters, they've kept them somewhat to the core and whatnot. But this was a character who was never really, I mean, he was part of the DC universe, but they'd established him as being a Vertigo character in the Vertigo world. My question now is, are they pretty much going to get rid of the entire Vertigo line, or is the Vertigo line just going to completely consist of Bill Willingham and all of his creations for the Farius stuff? Pretty sad. Not sure what else I have to say about it, other than this used to be a glorious, beautiful book. And it still is. Remember when this came out? came out, suggested for mature readers. There wasn't even a Vertigo line. This helped launch it. This came out a couple months before Sandman came out. I remember reading this and thinking, oh my gosh, this is like the best thing ever. Telling my friends about it. My friends were like, yeah, I don't know. That seems like an awful out there kind of a comic. Then Sandman came along and people picked up Sandman, thought it was great. And I went back and kept saying, look, if you're picking up Sandman, you should be picking up this book. It's an epic book. I'm only a few titles from actually owning every copy of Hellblazer. It's a comic that I've always collected since I've collected comics and since it came out in January of 1988. The only time I didn't pick this book up is during the period of time when I wasn't collecting comics due to other financial issues and whatnot. I've already seen some things where they're talking about how, oh, this is going to be great, it's going to be relaunching it, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be like taking the old Valiant comics like Exo War of Man and relaunching it into this new great and wonderful thing. Well, I understand all those Valiant comics are really great now and whatnot, and that's awesome. But there was also a time period where those Valiant comics weren't around. It gave them time to reassess and recreate those characters in a way that made sense for the time. Hellblazer has never become outdated. It's kept up with the times. It changes with those times. As new things come about, it develops with those things. So it's not like they've let the character die off for a while and now have decided to resurrect it into a new form. They haven't even given time for that. This wouldn't bother me so much, this cancellation also, if they weren't just immediately putting out this neutered version of the character. You know, a pathetic shadow of the actual character. The only reason the character even is portrayed as well as he is because of the richness of the character from the Vertigo title. Like I said, I think it's pretty sad. I really wish they weren't doing the a new comic. I sincerely doubt that I'll pick it up just because of the sour grapes. Now, 10 years from now or 5 years from now or a year from now, I may regret that, not picking that up due to sour grapes, but that's fine. Right now, that's my opinion. I know that there are other people in my house who will be writing letters to DC Comics and telling them how disappointed we are in this decision. I know it won't make a bit of difference, but it doesn't really matter to me. They're still going to hear what I have to say. And they'll hear what I want to say if they have anything remotely close to a Vertigo title or a Vertigo panel at the next Emerald City Comic Con I go to in March. I'm really pissed off, if you can't tell. I did most of my swearing and stuff before I got on camera because I try not to do that while I'm on camera. But it's pretty disappointing. I was pretty freaked out when DC relaunched the New 52 because I'm pretty much a pretty big DC fan. I was pretty angry that they didn't keep the Secret Six around and those sorts of things. But I don't remember being quite as pissed off as I am now. And I'm, obviously just a fan. It's not my book. It's some other company's book and whatnot. But I feel really disappointed and kind of cheated the fact that they're going to relaunch it, this other version, of a character that doesn't have the same kind of charm. He doesn't. He's just kind of a smarmy jerk in this. For those who've been around long enough to see my 30 Days of Comics videos, John Constantine Hellblazer was one of those characters I kind of pointed at that was, in a lot of ways, was kind of like me. I don't know. Pretty disappointing. I had other stuff to say in this What the Fugue, and I'm gonna shut the camera off and maybe I'll turn it back on and I'll splice the two videos together of what I originally was going to kind of talk about. Can't remember if I had anything good to say about this week worth of comics, but it's all been kind of tainted for now. And like I said, who knows? A month from now, this video may stink of knee-jerk reaction, but at this point, pretty disappointed. Pretty disappointed. I think it's a bad move on their part. They're killing a great depthy book for something I'm sure will be a much weaker version, if it's anything like modeled like what there currently is for Constantine in the new DC universe. Bye. Second half, happy time, or something like that. Need a drink. $1.69 for 20 ounces of Mountain Dew. Okay. I'm a soda drinker. Probably not a good thing. I'll probably rot my teeth out or something like that. Anyway, $1.69. $1.69 for 20 ounces of soda. I don't know. Maybe I drink a couple sodas a day. Right. Coffee here. What is that, a 12 ounce, 16 ounce? I think it's 16 ounces. 16 ounce espresso, $4.05 with tax. That's what that is, $4. What? Takes 15 minutes or so to drink that coffee. Most people have a coffee a day, right? $4.05 for 16 ounces. 15 minutes of enjoyment for that $4. I don't know, probably takes me a half hour or so to drink a 20 ounce soda. And comic books are what? Anywhere between $2.99 and for most of the DC books, some are $3.99, while the Marvel books are $3.99. Dark Horse comics tend to be what, $3.50, and I think Image comics are anywhere between what, $2.99 and $3.99 for a comic. And we continue to look at the comic book and go, oh my gosh, that's so expensive, that $4 comic book. I'm not collecting that because it's $4 or whatever, and that's fine. I'm drawing the line on some of those too, about how many I get. I don't want to get the double ships for a number of reasons that have to do with quality as much as the expense involved. But if you think about it, how much enjoyment are you getting out of the comic book? Is it less than a 15-minute read? Is it less than the time it takes to drink your cup of coffee that costs $4? That once you drank it, it's gone? I mean, it's gone. What are you going to do with it? It's gone. Comic book you have around, you can reread it later on. You can read it twice. I'm assuming you can have a longer conversation about a comic book and what happened in that story, and if it's a decent story. I mean, because that's part of it too, quality. Obviously, you don't want to spend $4 on a crappy cup of coffee. Don't want to spend $4 on a crappy comic book either. But you can have a long conversation about a comic book. I don't know how long of a conversation you can have about a cup of coffee. You know, with that comic book, it hopefully, if it's a good comic book, stimulates your brain a little bit, makes you think about it afterwards, even if you don't pick it back up and open it again for a long time. You know, I guess there's, for those who do so, there's a resale value on the comic book. Granted, you probably aren't going to get as much as you bought it for if it's a current comic book, but you might be able to sell it for something or trade it for something or something along those lines. Just to kind of keep a perspective in the cost of things. Since I know we've all priced out the difference between what a comic book cost when we were kids and what a comic book costs now, and how much it seems like maybe it's gone up faster than the rest of inflation has and whatnot, and what seems to be a fair price. But really, those cups of coffee, these things you're buying, your soda you're buying, you know, that kind of stuff that's gone, you know, and it's a luxury item. I mean, I need my caffeine, don't get me wrong, but it's a luxury item, just like a comic book is. What are you getting out of the two? Just a thought. I mean, as far as other, you know, pricing things that we spend money on or don't spend money on, was kind of going through what all I spend money on. I'm actually not a coffee drinker, but people in my house are coffee drinkers. And to go back through and look at how much money was spent in a month on coffee in comparison to how much money was spent in a month on comic books and that kind of thing, it's kind of interesting, you know, especially if you're having that cup a day. You think about having that cup a day, every day, a $4 cup of coffee kind of a thing, or whatever. You know, that sort of thing. That's a comic book a day that you're drinking away. I don't know. So I don't know that comic books are that expensive. I mean, they are no doubt. We all have to budget. I mean, best of my knowledge, none of you YouTubers that I follow anyway are millionaires that price isn't an objective, but at the same time, it's not nearly as prohibitive in the same way. I guess it's priorities. And maybe that's what it comes down to too. My priority is I'm not willing, people aren't willing to spend that much money on a comic book, but maybe they are on a cup of coffee. I don't know. But see, I don't like coffee, so I guess that's a bad comparison maybe for me. Anyway, I was just thinking about that one day, looking at the fact what it costs for that cup of coffee and what I'm paying for a comic book, and is the comic really that horrifically expensive? It is expensive. It's bad. Just like that cup of coffee is expensive if it's a bad cup of coffee. So it really comes down to spending the money on good comics. I don't mind. I don't have a problem with spending $4. I've decided on comic book if I'm really enjoying it and it's really a good comic. So that's why I'm relying more and more on all the rest of you YouTubers out there and your reviews to give me an idea and give me a sense of what I want to be buying, what I don't want to be buying. I've started to use a lot more of that, listening to, not just listening to everybody else's opinions of the books, same books I'm reading, but listening to the opinions of people's books that other people are reading that I don't read, to see if I'm missing something and to see if there's something else that I should be picking up that might be worth that money. That's really a good story. Because, like I said, we all have budgets. We have to stay with it and whatnot. But I don't know. It just kind of struck me as interesting. Start thinking about the prices of some of the stuff that are just every day-to-day consumables and that sort of thing that cost basically the same price as what my comic book does, that I tend to sometimes freak out and go, oh my God, this is a $4 comic book. They're sticking it to me, that $3.99 price tag or whatever. But they're not sticking to me, I don't think, if it's actually a good story. So I guess that's part of what that comes down to. What else is going on in my comic book week now that I've ranted and raved and whatnot? I can't think of a whole lot else that's really necessarily going on that that I can remember coming up. That Hellblazer thing just threw me. I mean, there's been rumors going around, and I was like, yeah, no, this is going to keep going. I mean, it's their successful book. That's why it's been around for 300 issues. Yeah, I'm not going to deviate back off out of that. Anyway, I hope y'all enjoy your rest of your week. I'll see you around the weekend. I'll be around for the comic book podcast, I'm sure, that's this weekend, whether it be Friday or Saturday. I don't think I've heard yet. Got to catch up on some videos, what else is new. By midweek, I'm always behind on videos. For all you guys that put out your Wednesday comic book videos and whatnot. Hoping to sometime be able to catch more of your guys' live feed. I never seem to be around when people are doing live feeds and whatnot. Maybe that's because I live over here on the West Coast and you guys are all doing East Coast stuff. So by the time I got time to sit down and watch the computer, you guys are all off doing whatever else. But while we're doing that, I should have a couple no capes coming up because I don't want my no cape videos to be too long. And I've got 7 or 8, I think, no capes type books out there that I still need to read for this time around. So I'll be doing that. This weekend, of course, we'll do the typical monster comic review. I believe it'll be the disembodied voice again because Ethan is out of town on the other side of the state doing some school competition type things. So he won't be around. So like I said, it'll be me and the disembodied voice going over some comics. At any rate, I am out of here to upload this and to watch some of your guys' videos, and so I will see you on the weekend. Have a good one, everybody.